Fetty Wap got caught up in a drug deal, and what really happened left everyone stunned.
I'm sure Fetty could still get 20,000 a show, but that ain't enough for the lifestyle he created.
They said it was just another move, quick meat, fast money. But between the handoff and the headlights, everything flipped. Let's break it down. $22 million in the account. Before the rap game knew his name, Willie Jr. Maxwell II was in Paterson, New Jersey, getting it how he lived. No deals, no shows, nothing. Just a young shorty from Jersey, doing what the block taught him, moving crack to keep the lights on and money coming in. He never hid that chapter. He didn't erase it or pretend it didn't happen. He took that life, put a melody on it, and turned it into the biggest record of 2014. Trap Queen wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't a concept. It was real. A love story inside a trap house built on cooking and flipping cocaine with someone you ride for. The streets felt it instantly because it was real. And when it hit different. By 2015, Trap Queen reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for months. Radio locked in. Streaming exploded. The debut album proved it wasn't luck, not a one-hit wave. Buzzy remembered exactly how that era looked from the outside.
Remember when Fetty was on fire? When Trap Queen was out and that whole album had like 5 singles on it?
Remember when Fetty Wap was on fire? When Trap Queen dropped and that album carried 5 singles? 5 hits off one debut isn't normal. That's not luck. That's dominance. 5 charting records meant 5 income streams moving at once. Publishing, performance, sync deals, and most of all, the kind of name power that lets you walk into bookings and set your price. Every festival, every arena, every club show was priced off a catalog running multiple hits at the same time. And from the outside, the spending made one thing clear. The money was coming in.
I remember there was a video of him throwing out $2,000 cash on his balcony, just throwing it out. He was making so much money he didn't give a
2 racks off the balcony. Not for a scene, not for a thumbnail. Just because the money was coming in so fast that $2,000 felt like nothing to throw into the air on a random day when the vibe hit right. And Fetty Wap confirmed that number himself. No filter. He had clearly gone over that number in his mind more than once before this conversation.
Huh?
22.
Like 22, like 22 million?
Yeah.
Holy.
22 million in cash in a single account. At the peak of the Trap Queen run, the kid from Paterson who once moved crack on the block had $22 million sitting in the bank. And it wasn't just sitting there. It kept growing every day as royalties stacked and show fees kept clearing.
I know for a fact I was clearing 100,000 every day.
Well, $100,000 every single day. Not weekly, not monthly, daily. That's $36.5 million a year. The kind of money that belongs to hedge fund managers and tech founders, not a 20-something from Paterson, a city most of New Jersey ignores. But it was real. The account showed it every morning when he checked his phone. Seeing $100,000 a day changes your internal scale. It becomes normal, the baseline for everything. And when the music industry does what it always does and moves on, that number starts to fall. The gap between what it was and what it becomes hits differently for someone who lived at that peak. For Fetty Wap, the decline began near the end of 2017. Not a sudden drop, but a slow bleed. A steady erosion that still left hope that things would turn back, that the bookings would return, that the wave wasn't fully gone.
Now, the day I woke up and I only made like 40,000, I'm like, right. I'm like, 40,000, 40,000, 40,000, 30,000.
40, then 40 again, then 40 again, then 30. The direction was clear. The daily number was sliding one way and not turning back on its own. Then a booking call landed that confirmed what the account already showed. A promoter offered $50,000 to book Fetty Wap for a show. Not long before, his rate was in a completely different range. When the market prices you at $50,000 per appearance, it's a message.
This is the end of 2017. I'm like, all right, it's happened.
39 end of 2017, 3 years removed from Trap Queen. 3 years past the $22 million, the $100,000 days, and the money thrown off balconies. The machine was slowing down, and he felt it in his whole body. Young Jack later broke it down, mapping the financial trap. This kind of career arc creates for rappers with precision.
You accumulate so much income
when you're hot.
And even when the heat cools off, the bag doesn't shut down overnight.
And even though you're not hot anymore, that's still residual income that come in. You still do shows, you still got a face card, you still can you still can touch money.
The face card is still active. The shows are still booked. Money is still coming in. But the weight behind it isn't the same. Not broke by normal standards, but compared to who Fetty Wap was, $22 million in the account and $100,000 days. It's a different world. The gap between those two versions of the same man is a canyon, and that's where things start to break. The rise, the money, and the slow fade are part of the story. But to understand how he got here, you have to look at what the money built around him while it was flowing.
So if I'm gonna work hard to go make $500,000, I'm gonna be willing to go give it away to the designers.
Not thrown away randomly, given to the people around you, the lifestyle you built, and the responsibility of being the one who made it out and now has to support those who didn't. Spending at this level isn't always reckless gambling. Sometimes it's loyalty, community, the cost of being the plug for your whole circle. But the effect on the account stays the same, no matter the reason.
To the people that build the cars, to the liquor distributors, to my weed man, my dope man.
It goes everywhere, in every direction, toward everything the new life demands. Not a single dollar compounds. Not a single dollar sits in anything that generates income. When the music slows down, it leaves the account and doesn't come back.
You think Fetty Wap couldn't have put the type of money he getting into one of these apps?
That question hits like a brick every time it's heard. 22 million in real money, properly invested, doesn't disappear. Put it into anything that produces passive income, and it becomes a floor. The music industry can't pull from under you, no matter how cold the streams get. But that kind of financial thinking requires an education most kids from Paterson, New Jersey, don't get before a hit record changes everything overnight. By the time the daily number slid from $100,000 to 40 to 30, the system built around the higher income was still standing and still burning cash. Cars needed insurance, properties needed upkeep, people needed to eat. The cost structure was built for one level of income, and that income was gone. The architecture of the life outgrew the engine behind it. Jock broke down what the show circuit looks like once the peak is over.
I'm sure Fetty could still get 20,000 a show, but that ain't enough for the lifestyle he created.
The residual value is real. Don't get it twisted. Fetty Wap as a name still moves tickets. The face card still opens doors, but the per-show number has shifted from where it once sat at the peak. The income and the lifestyle are no longer moving at the same speed. One is slowing down, the other isn't. That gap is where dangerous thinking begins to grow. Bowie had seen this cycle play out across the industry, especially in Louisiana, where he had a front row seat to what happens when rap money stops matching lifestyle demands.
Because once you spend all your money and you got to go back to what you know.
Back to what you know is the spine of this whole story, because what Willie Maxwell knew before fame, before $22 million, was Paterson, New Jersey. He knew those streets from the inside and understood that economy, like most people, understand a job. Boozy made it clear that what separated Fetty Wap's situation from a typical broke rapper returning to the block was the height he fell from. Most never reached the penthouse to begin with, so the return is short because music never fully replaces street income. Fetty Wap was different. He reached the top, touched $22 million, felt what $100,000 days do to your system, then came all the way back down and ended up where he started. Between late 2017 and mid-2019, a decision was made. The exact moment it shifted from solving a financial problem to knowing how to solve it isn't in public record, but what is public is what federal agents detailed in an indictment unsealed in October 2021. From June 2019 to June 2020, Willie Jr. Maxwell II was allegedly involved in a drug trafficking organization. A structured, multi-state operation moving supply from the West Coast to Long Island and New Jersey, built with logistics that triggered a year-long federal investigation. Fetty Wap and 5 co-defendants were accused of sourcing large quantities of narcotics on the West Coast and distributing them across Long Island and New Jersey, including involvement from Anthony Sina, a former New Jersey corrections officer, allegedly used as a courier, showing strategic use of professional cover. The operation allegedly used the U.S. Postal Service and vehicles with hidden compartments, methods that are high volume, low visibility, and require planning beyond entry-level execution. Prosecutors said the pipeline moved over 100 kilos, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack cocaine, with fentanyl increasing the severity of the case under federal law. Fetty Wap's alleged role was described as a kilogram-level redistributor with direct handling of narcotics, while Young Jock explained how artists transition from music back into the drug world in a way that closely mirrors the psychology outlined in the indictment.
So you like, I'm gonna take my last, I'm gonna put it here. I got my little cousin, my little homie.
The logic almost sounds domestic when you hear it laid out like that. Put your own capital in, keep it in the family. Literal family or chosen family, people you trust. Buy the work.
I don't gotta touch it. I'm gonna make a play, buy some bags, put these on.
We move the work. The financial math of the street isn't complicated. The margin on narcotics at that scale is high, and the capital to enter at a meaningful level is available to someone who had seen 22 million. The operational knowledge for a man with Fetty Wap's background in Patterson already existed before the rap career ever started. When investigators moved in, what they recovered made denial almost impossible. Search warrants found about 1.5 million in cash, 16 kilo of cocaine, 2 kilo of heroin, fentanyl pills, and multiple firearms. Physical evidence strong enough to bury the case before trial. The moment the hammer dropped was unforgettable. On October 28, 2021, federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York unsealed the indictment and came for Fetty Wap, who was at Citi Field in Queens, minutes away from performing at Rolling Loud. He was arrested and accused of distributing 100 kilo of cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl, amounts far beyond personal use, tied to a structured multi-state operation allegedly involving a corrections officer as a courier and vehicles with hidden compartments. This was the scale presented by the government. Reports from outside the federal courthouse confirmed the stakes. Fetty Wap faced at least 5 years in prison after pleading guilty to conspiracy to distribute drugs, a federal mandatory minimum, where 5 years was only the floor, not the final sentence.
Willie Jr. Maxwell II, better known in the rap world as Fetty Wap, pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute over 500 grams of cocaine.
The plea came down on August 22, 2022, but by then, the bail situation had already gone sideways for reasons unrelated to narcotics and tied instead to a FaceTime call that someone insured the government heard about. The bail revocation sits apart from the drug charges, but reveals something about the pressure of the situation. Fetty Wap was operating between his arrest at Rolling Loud in October 2021 and his guilty plea in August 2022. He was released in November 2021 on a $500,000 bond under standard federal conditions meant to keep him available to the court and protect the community while the case moved forward. He did not reach sentencing as a free man. In August 2022, prosecutors presented information that sent him back into custody. A FaceTime video where Fetty Wap allegedly appeared holding a firearm with his face, hands, and weapon clearly visible, making repeated death threats to the person on the other end of the call. Not a slip, not a figure of speech. Direct threats while on federal bond for a drug case carrying a mandatory minimum. The government learned of it through information provided from outside the investigation, and the judge acted quickly. From that point, Fetty Wap remained in custody with no bail, held through to sentencing. The plea deal itself reduced the original exposure from a potential life sentence down to conspiracy to distribute and possess 500 grams or more of cocaine. Still serious, but limited to a 5-year mandatory minimum instead of life. Sentencing came on May 24, 2023, when Judge Joanna Seibert handed down 6 years in federal prison, 1 year above the minimum, plus 5 years of supervised release. The increase above the minimum was supported in part by prosecutors referencing his rap lyrics as material that glamorized drug activity, a practice increasingly used in federal cases involving hip-hop artists despite First Amendment debate. 6 years after $22 million in the account, 5 hit singles, Balcony Money, and $100,000 days, the music was still generating residual income in the background. But the man who built it all was sent to FCI Sandstone in Minnesota to serve his sentence. Young Jack described this as the psychological pattern behind how artists reach decisions that lead to moments like this.
It happens every day. And again, that's what I said. We don't know what to do with the money when we get it.
We don't know what to do with the money when we get it. That isn't a personal attack on Fetty Wap, but a structural issue. A system that places sudden wealth into the hands of young men from the bottom, with no financial education, no institutional support, and no patient capital to guide them. The wake-up call came in the form of FCI Sandstone, a federal correctional facility in the pine forests of northern Minnesota. Low security, consistent with a first-time offender on a drug conspiracy charge without a violence conviction, but still federal prison. Inside, the days run on the institution's time, not yours. Money, shows, streaming numbers, lifestyle, none of it matters there. None of it follows you in. That environment creates a clarity the outside world rarely allows. When everything tied to the public version of Willie Maxwell is stripped away, what remains is a man sitting in silence and time, something he hadn't experienced since before Trap Queen changed everything. He didn't waste that time. He joined rehabilitation programs, enrolled in education, and earned good time credits under the First Step Act through consistent participation, resulting in an earlier release than the full 6-year term. On January 8, 2026, roughly 3 years into his sentence and about 11 months early, Fetty Wap walked out of FCI Sandstone into home confinement. Not fully free, as supervised release conditions set by Judge Sabert still remain, including drug testing, substance restrictions, and limits on movement and associations until approximately November 2026. The legal chapter is still open, but the prison chapter is closed.
You feel what I'm
That's a
saying?
fact.
But now the difference is that Fetty gonna respect it more. When he get the money, he gonna respect the money more.
Respect the money. Not just receive the bag and let it move in every direction, but respect it. Understand what it represents, what it can do, what it cannot, and what the right relationship between a person and their capital should look like. When you strip away the performance of wealth and the lifestyle built on top of it.
When he meet the friends, he's gonna respect his friendships more. When he get the opportunity, he gonna respect the opportunity more.
Pattern in that statement is deliberate. Money, friendships, opportunities. 3 things that came to Fetty Wap in quantities most people never see. And 3 things that, by every breakdown of his story, moved through his life faster than he could hold on to them. Not because he was uniquely reckless or short-sighted, but because the system that created the wealth never built the structure to manage it.
When he doing his shows, he ain't these 250 up this time, he ain't go back down to 5,000. He ain't
$250,000 per show. That's the peak booking rate being referenced, the level where Fetty Wap's name was priced at its hottest. The idea behind this is that numbers like that can return, and that the version of Fetty Wap who comes home from federal prison is wired differently than the one who watched daily earnings drop from $100,000 to $40,000 to $30,000 and made the decisions he made in response.
No. He gonna play this shit right. That's all jail did for you.
That's a
God
fact.
said, I gotta slow you down because you are uber talented.
And slow you down. That framing recontextualizes the 6 years at FCI Sandstone, not as punishment for a series of bad decisions, but as a forced deceleration on a man whose speed was taking him somewhere worse than a federal prison cell.
Something came down the pike that was some easy money on shit. That's sweet. I can do that.
And easy. Money. That's the specific pull being described here, not desperation from hunger or homelessness. Fetty Wap wasn't starving in 2019 by any measure, but easy money felt closer than the slow, uncertain process of rebuilding a music career from a lower place. Street math is fast and familiar, while music industry math is slow and full of variables you can't control. For someone whose deepest understanding came from the block, whose first language was that economy before the rap game, the pull toward the faster, familiar path carries a real weight that deserves honest understanding, not dismissal. The money slows down, but life doesn't adjust. The streets remain familiar, and decisions get made. Then the federal government, patient in a way street systems are not, closes the case at its own timing. The pattern people talk about is real, even if details get exaggerated as stories spread online. But the verified record shows a man who rose from the bottom, reached extraordinary success, watched it decline, made decisions that led to a federal sentence, served his time, earned early release, and is now back in the world with his future still open. The question remains, can Fetty Wap stay out and move differently, or will trouble keep finding him?